guys, I'm Brittany from Acre Roots, where we talk about growing a lot on a little bit of space. And today we are definitely living up to my channel's name because we are talking about how to maximize your growing space by going vertical. Usually I have like a list of stuff that I want to make sure I say because I tend to ramble, so I try to keep myself on track. Today we do not. It's actually a comfortable 80 and cloudy outside, and I just felt like talking about vertical growing, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna talk about all my favorite vertical growing solutions all around our yard, starting with our tomatoes. Now these go from like super low cost / free if you have a good friend who happens to have bamboo in their yard, to things that are a little bit more expensive. I will talk through what I like and dislike about all of them, and hopefully you guys take something away from this if you have a smaller space, or even if you have a larger space and you're just looking to maximize your space by growing up and growing things under the things that you grow up. Okay, let's get started right here outside of the greenhouse, talking about one of my favorite ways to grow tomatoes right here. These are my pole tomatoes, and as you can see, they are going a little bit crazy by this point of the year. It is late July in Maryland zone 7. Now these are pole tomatoes, indeterminate tomatoes, meaning they'll just continue to grow and grow and grow for as long as you let them grow. I have been doing this method for a couple years now, and I really like it because I like how I can put all of my pole tomatoes into one bed here. I have 4 different pole tomato plants in here. I can grow them up and then I can grow other stuff under them. So I've got Swiss chard here, I've got borage, I've got chamomile on the other side, basil, some other random things, nasturtium thrown into this bed. So we are truly maximizing that space by growing something up in the canopy. Way, way, way tall. I'm like almost 6 feet tall, so you can see how tall these actually are. I think the bamboo poles are like 10 feet long maybe, and that frees up all of the space underneath of it. Now, this is one of the super low cost solutions I have in the yard because my uncle has bamboo on his property. So every year my cousin and I will go in like the late winter, early spring and cut down some bamboo and use it in the garden, use it for various things. Now, don't get any wise ideas here that you might want to like plant bamboo in your yard. You don't want to plant bamboo in your yard. It's horribly invasive. It's really tough to control. But if you know someone who already has it in their yard and they're not like actively trying to get rid of it, chances are they're not going to care if you come and cut some down. And most of this bamboo here is actually bamboo from last year. I just throw it in the shed or throw it outside all winter. I let it air dry, and I've also fire cured some of it to keep it a little bit more durable. This year, I just didn't have the time to get to fire curing some of it. When you fire cure the bamboo, it like brings out some of the resins in the bamboo and kind of makes it darker and coats the outside of the bamboo to help it be a little bit more resistant to the weather. So generally it's gonna look a little bit better. It's not gonna crack as much. The ones that are air dried, like I can look up at these and I can see where the cracks are, but it's not that big of a deal. If I had to cut down new bamboo every single year, I would, but I'm still using all of my bamboo from last year, plus the stuff I cut down this year. Now, the only thing to know about this method of growing your indeterminate tomatoes is that it requires heavy pruning. So I typically will start off with the best of intentions every year with my pruning off all of the suckers down at the bottom. And what I will generally do is when the plant gets up to like maybe this area on plants that I really like the tomatoes, like my sun golds, I may let one of these suckers go so I get more fruit with my plants. But by the end of July, early August, I've pretty much started to give up on pruning. As you can see with this yellow pear one here that is kind of flopping over and pulling this pole to the side, I need to come in here and trim this one up a little bit because it's getting a little bit too top heavy. But I really just kind of like stop babying my plants as much when we get like into mid to late summer because one, I'm tired of being hot. I'm tired of sweating, and I just kind of want to let the plants like go wild and produce as much as they can before fall hits. And all I do with these poles is stick them down as deep as I can into the raised bed, down into the soil, as far as I can get them because I can't use like a T-post driver or anything since they're so tall. So I stick them down as far as I can, and then I find that once those tomato roots really get established and I start tying them up to the bamboo stakes, that they generally are going to stay in place really well. Like almost all of the poles in here are straight up and down. They're not too wonky. The only one that is this one right here. And that one is half because it is kind of being dragged down by this giant pole tomato here, and because as you can see, it's on the side of the bed, so it doesn't have the base of a tomato plant anchoring it in place like the other ones do. I just stuck this one down so I could let one of the suckers go. Now, before I show you guys the other thing I am using bamboo stakes for this year, I want to just come right here next to our pole tomato bed and show you some of my other pole tomatoes These were actually my second string tomatoes. These were teeny tiny plants when I put them in, not ones that I had really babied at all. And I ended up having the extra bed space right here. So I threw 2 sun gold cherry tomato plants in here and then 1 of these bush like beefsteak tomato plants. So I'm trying to train this bush beefsteak up by just gently tying it to this T-post to keep the room under here free for some fall lettuce and then some dill that I just reseeded here. And then of course our sweet alyssum and our basil. But for the other pole tomatoes here, I have let them go a little bit crazy. I let them start throwing out their runners and growing their runners a little bit earlier than I did the other plants, just because I'm not tying them up to one thing. So this trellis is part of the Vego garden trellising system. So it is like an add-on that you can get for this specific Vego bed. They have it in different sizes. I like it because it's super sturdy. It bolts into place. It's super versatile. Last year, I think I used it for some cucumbers or squash. This year, I used it for sugar snap peas early on. And then now, of course, I'm using it for tomatoes. So it's super versatile. I've just been kind of loosely tying things with a little bit of my dollar store twine up to it and letting it go kind of crazy and not really doing anything else. So I'm loving having the extra sun gold cherry tomatoes by growing up on this trellis here and saving some space below it. And last up with our tomatoes up here, this bed has gotten pretty insane. I've just kind of let it go wild. I don't really tend to prune my determinate bush tomatoes. These are Roma tomatoes. I just kind of let them go so they can produce as much as possible, especially because I only put 3 plants in this bed this year. So what I ended up doing was just adding in 1 of these A-frame trellises. I love these. They're powder coated so they don't rust, they don't break down. They're super versatile for using all over the garden. I ended up sticking one over here to the side of the garden for these California black-eyed peas, because even though the package said that they were like mostly a bush pea, maybe semi-vining, they're really vining. So I was not prepared for the amount that they're vining. So I just ended up throwing another A-frame trellis over here because I didn't want them to like run all down into this bed and run down here, just to try and save some space to not crowd out our eggplants too much, because I also shoved 2 eggplants in here as well. In addition to, if you can believe it, there's also a perennial arugula down here. So by growing up a little bit in this bed, I've been able to fit a lot of stuff this year, and this is with like almost no pruning. I've just kind of let these go and they've stayed super sturdy during all of the storms that we've had. I freaking love these trellises. And I also have 2 of them up here in this bed. Love these for cucumbers. That's actually the goal when I got them, was for like squash and cucumbers. They're awesome for cucumbers. So I've got 2 up here. Really helps you to see like what you've got to harvest, so you don't end up with weird giant cucumbers just like taking up space and sapping the life out of your plant at the base of the cucumber plant because it's hidden by a bunch of foliage. These make it super convenient. And then the very first vertical growing solution that we put in our yard was actually our cattle panel arch trellis, which is right next to those cucumbers. So right next to the cucumbers, you can see that some of them are jumping on and growing up this cattle panel arch trellis. So this right here, these were the first 2 beds that we put into our yard when we first moved in and we started converting this whole area. We put these 2 raised beds and then we put a cattle panel between them in an arch just attached with zip ties to some T-posts down here in the soil next to the beds. So this has been a prolific vertical growing solution for us over the years. This year I've got a bunch of pole beans. The ones on this side of the arch are much more mature than the ones on this side. But what it ends up letting us do every year is early spring, I will start to grow sugar snap peas on these, and then I will grow other cooler weather stuff down in the bed. And then I transition to pole beans or lima beans or something like that and grow other things down in the bed. So for the bed over there, I've got the cucumbers, I've got some hot peppers on one end, parsley, nasturtium, and then up here on this bed, I've got plenty of room for some more sweet bell peppers, some of my summer crisp heat tolerant lettuce, and then my holy basil over here that has gone completely insane. I need to come in here and prune this one. So when you're adding this trellis, you can essentially throw in like a whole nother thing that you can grow, because the pole beans don't really take up that much space in the bed. You can plant them really close to each other, just pop those seeds into the beds and then let them climb and go wild. Okay, let's leave the raised bed area now to head back into the back of the yard to show you 2 big vertical growing things back here. One is probably the most expensive vertical growing thing I have in the yard, and the other is probably the cheapest because I didn't buy anything to construct it this year. The first one here is the Titan squash tunnel. Now, if you love gardening, you've probably heard of the Titan squash tunnel or know someone who has it. I did not put the netting over it this year because honestly, I forgot. I threw the loofah on here and it's really taking off. It had a really rough start. I was kind of worried about how it would fill things out, but we have at least another 2 months of great heat here. So I am hopeful that we can actually get some loofah. The only problem with this tunnel is that I do have it so close to the tree that the loofah keeps trying to jump up and climb the tree as well. But I love this tunnel because it has a really wide base, so it's super stable and it doesn't feel cramped when you walk in it. And it's really, really tall. So I am about 5'10", and when I walk through it, I don't have to duck down, even though I kind of anchored it down into the soil, and I'm standing up on pavers here. So it's just a really nice little arch, and I think it's gonna look really pretty when the loofahs start growing and hanging down. I'll be able to watch them as they get bigger. I'll be able to pick them easily. It's just a really great solution. I don't know if I'm gonna keep this one here though, because again, like I said, it is kind of really too close to this tree here, and as this tree gets bigger, it's gonna start shading it out even more. I had a hard time figuring out where to put this year, but I'm definitely gonna keep it. I'm just gonna have to put it somewhere else next year, and we'll see what I decide to grow on it. And then the other lovely thing we have back here is our bean teepee. I am obsessed with this. I love how this turned out. I have a whole video on how I set up and made this bean teepee. These are all lima beans on it, and I used just bamboo that we'd already had. I did have to kind of cut some of them to be similar sizes to one another, and I did have to do a little bit of mild training on here. So once I put the stakes in the ground and tied everything together into the teepee form, I ran some of my twine down. I put a level here, I put a level here, and then I just kind of let it go crazy once it got up there. So we have an opening over here because I actually wanted this to be like a functional little play fort type thing for my daughter. But if you just want to maximize your space, you could just make this like a growing structure with no opening, and that would certainly give you more space to grow beans. But I kind of like how there's an opening here so that I can like kind of go inside and see, and I can pick and see what's going on in here. You can pick easily because you can access all sides. These I planted kind of late, so we actually don't have anything to pick yet on them, but I am so pleased with how this turned out. It just looks so pretty. I absolutely love it. We will probably do this again next year, even if my daughter doesn't want to play for it, just because it is so easy. We already have everything to do it, and it's just such a great way to add in another nitrogen fixer to your soil and just something that's really pretty and tall if you have a space to fill out. Because this was originally where a plum tree was that unfortunately died. It was the little companion to this plum tree over here. So I wanted to do something here until we decided what to replant there this fall. Okay, now we are going to head up from the back of the yard away from Mosquito Alley. I swear the bugs are always the worst back there in the back of the yard, probably because of the pond we have back there, but I do throw mosquito dunks in it. I just think this time of year the bugs are all over me. I can't go outside without getting completely obliterated by bugs. So we're up here in the front of the backyard. So this is a very traditional arch trellis that we have here. I actually got this one on Amazon. It was really cheap. It was honestly like kind of an impulse purchase. I was not expecting it to be as big and nice as it is. I mean, I know the measurements are literally on the Amazon listing, but it's really hard for me to tell sometimes like how it's actually gonna look and feel in the space. I did not want it to be too small, so it felt like obtrusive walking through this as tall people, and my husband's even taller than I am, but it turned out really lovely. This one I did end up using like a little welding, one of those like 2-part adhesives. It's called like a welding glue or something. I glued together most of these joints just for added stability. I left this joint unglued on each one so that I could take the entire trellis apart into 3 bigger pieces if I want to take it down for the winter. This year, what I have growing on this, we just added this spring. I threw some lima beans on this side and they are taking over beautifully. And then on this side, I have a Virginia groundnut, which I really wasn't sure how much it was gonna grow this year. This is a perennial here in Maryland Zone 7A. It has edible tubers and it just has really lovely flowers and vining foliage. So I thought this would be a beautiful edible vining addition up here near the patio and the ponds. I am so happy with this arch that I actually bought a second one. So hopefully that ends up being a good decision, and hopefully they last multiple years, because I ended up putting one up in the front yard as well. So up here near the patio, we have a couple smaller vertical solutions. So this one right here, I am training my boysenberry canes up. Boysenberries fruit on second year canes. So you want to make sure to take care of those canes and keep them standing throughout the winter, because these canes that you see here right now, these are going to be the ones that next year give us boysenberries. Now, they can quickly outgrow this trellis, so I have been coming in here and snipping them or just kind of like winding them back down through. But I think this is a really nice thing to add some height in this area. And this was just like a cheap trellis, I think from like Walmart or something. I'm starting to forget where I got every single of these like kind of generic black trellises, but I'm pretty sure this one was from Walmart, and I really like the look of it. Over here, we have a little bit of a GreenStalk construction zone as I convert my pink GreenStalk here to all strawberries. Over here, we have our kiwi trellis, but you might be thinking that doesn't look like a kiwi because it's not a kiwi. Our kiwi, hardy kiwi vine right here is still quite small. This is our hardy kiwi vine. It's still very small compared to the trellis, but as you can see, we are getting some really great growth and running up the vine, which is exactly what we want to see this first year. So since I didn't want this like giant empty trellis here, we decided to throw a bunch of runner lima beans just because. I love throwing those everywhere. They're lush, they're beautiful, and they will eventually give us some really pretty Christmas lima beans that also are really great dry shelled beans. So you can just let the pods completely ripen and dry on the vine and then pick them and throw them in a jar and use them all winter. And the goal is that this whole trellis, which is made out of a cattle panel that I cut down. I also have a video on setting all of this up. This is just a 16-foot cattle panel that I cut down to, I think, like maybe 11 feet. And then attached it to some heavy duty T-posts, and it looked kind of weird at first. It just looked like kind of a jail because there was nothing growing on it. But the beans quickly took over, and now it's just a really nice shield here. I'm sitting down on our patio, and when the sun goes down right over there, it can really glare at you here. So it buys us like another hour of time before we have to like draw that shut. And eventually the kiwi will like completely take over this whole area, so we won't have to put vines. But I like how it kind of separates the whole patio area from this area where, you know, our neighbors are like right there, and then we have our rain barrels over there as well. So super happy with how this project has turned out this year. Okay, now over to our main in-ground growing area. So you can see behind me 2 of these A-frame trellises. I have actually 3 of these, I lied. One of them here is like spread a little bit more because this one has a lot of those black-eyed cowpeas, California cowpeas. And I know from the ones in the other bed that they will really start to vine. This one is kind of starting to vine here. So I wanted to give them something to support them. We usually do sweet potatoes in this whole area, but this year I actually decided to do only 2 sweet potato plants. So this one has really taken off. This one is incredibly sad. So they're pretty late. Hopefully we at least get a couple sweet potatoes. I kind of forgot to put them in the ground as early as I should have, so they are not as mature as they should be. And then this right here is a succession planting of cucumber that I'm hoping will vine up this eventually above a lot of the sweet potato foliage that will really run all over the ground and kind of cover and shade out that soil. This one is a brand new purchase that I know I featured in some other videos this year. This is specifically for growing pole beans. So this admittedly was like kind of an impulse purchase. I think I might have gotten this when I got the Titan squash tunnel. It had really good reviews and I'd seen someone else who had it. So I thought, let's give it a try. It looks really cool. Let's give it a try, see if it works and helps me maximize space to grow some more beans. So it is just like 3 pieces. It's the base piece down here, like the circular base piece, and then the pole in the middle, and then the top piece, and then you just run like twine back and forth. So you do have to replace the twine every year, but it is a great option for growing pole beans in a smaller space because much like that teepee approach, it really maximizes space. And if I wanted to, like, I could probably throw something in the middle down here to grow as well, but this is our first year with it, so I have not gotten too creative with using it. And I also planted these beans a bit late, so I'm really pleased to see them start to take off and kind of climb all over the top here. And then, as you probably saw in the back of that video, these are my beautiful GreenStalks. You can almost not even see this yellow GreenStalk because it is so full of these gorgeous healthy strawberries. I've got my strawberry cups on the side, rooting runners. I wanted to convert this whole tower to be strawberries this year, and I love it so much because it's such a great use of space, in like 2 square feet of space, to grow 42 different strawberry plants because we're growing up. But I also think it's uniquely well suited for strawberries because a lot of times I find that when you're growing the berries on the ground, you are going to, like, they'll get kind of nasty and like they'll rot a lot faster if they're like touching the wet ground. Slugs can get to them more, critters can find them easier, whereas up here, you can kind of see them hanging down and you can either choose to protect them, which you do still need to protect them because the birds love to come up here, perch right on this side, and have one single bite out of every single strawberry, all in this tower. These are all June-bearing strawberries, so during June, I'll be standing at my kitchen window and looking outside thinking, wow, those delicious berries, they look like they're really being enjoyed. One single bite from each one from the birds. So next year, I think what I'm gonna do is put my second GreenStalk. I have 3 GreenStalks, but I'm gonna put my other strawberry GreenStalk right next to this one, but they need to be right next to each other because we have them all hooked up to irrigation that's all hooked up to one another. So I'm gonna put them right next to each other, and then I think I'm just gonna build like a super cheap, maybe like out of thin PVC pipe, just like a large cage around both of the GreenStalks, so that once the berries start forming, I can just wrap like some sort of tool or insect netting or something around it to protect those berries, so I don't have to go in and like cover each individual like cluster of berries, because I know people who do that. I've done that with like those little organza bags. It's just too time consuming with that many strawberries. But I love the idea of having 2 of these leaf GreenStalks right next to one another for a total of 84 strawberry plants. The leaf model, that's this one, it has the more shallow pockets, has 42 plant pockets in it. So if I've got 42 strawberries in this and I load up my other leaf model, which also has 42, that's an insane amount of strawberry plants. I'm super excited about it. Super excited to be drowning in strawberries next year. So the GreenStalks are a really great option too if you are in an area where you only have impervious space, like the patio that I'm standing on right now, gravel, something like that. You don't want to do raised beds, you can't grow in the ground or don't want to. GreenStalks are super versatile for that reason because you can just set them anywhere. Right now I have the one that I'm currently converting to strawberries over here on my mulch. I should probably have it on a paver so it's a little bit more stable, but I don't have it completely stacked up, and this is actively a work in progress. So eventually this one will come up onto a concrete surface right next to this one. You can also get these bases that have wheels on them. So I'm a huge fan of GreenStalk, have been long before I started working for them. It's a great company, a great product that I wholeheartedly recommend to everyone, not just because it's beautiful, but because it's super effective too. So if you are interested in a GreenStalk, I always have a link and a code down in my pinned comment or description. It'll get you $10 off, wait for sales. They have really good sales, and you can stack the coupon codes on top of the sales. All right, heading up to the front yard, let's hit the side of our house first for this beautiful vining passion flower situation. So this is a really aggressive native vine. Plant this if you want it forever. Do not plant it somewhere and dig it up to move it, because you're gonna be digging up those runners for months after you first dig up the plant and you think you got it all. Ask me how I know, because I spent months digging up runners and giving them away or composting them. What I ended up doing was putting 1 big trellis in the middle and then 2 smaller trellises on the side. This, I will probably even have to add something to it, or maybe do a bigger growing solution for it next year, but I knew it wouldn't get too mature and out of control this year, so I figured I would just use these and not put up something like permanent or semi-permanent like I did with the kiwi vine trellis. So this has worked super well. I love that it really just like kind of takes up this whole wall. We're getting some really cool little maypop fruits. And of course, you just cannot beat the flowers on this vine. Like, it's one of my favorite plants. These flowers are so freaking cool. They're so pretty. One of my favorite native plants, but again, proceed with caution when you plant. Make sure you choose the right place for it. Now heading into one of my favorite rows here, our berry row. This row here has blackberries on one side and black raspberries on the other. So I find that blackberries are a little bit shrubbier than black raspberries are. So all I've done to kind of keep these contained is one, prune them down, and two, put in some metal T-stakes and some wire here. Now you don't have to do that. If you have more space, you could just let your blackberries go crazy. But I have found that it lets me have more bushes up here if I can keep them pruned down and kind of keep the bushes up on this side of the wire. It just kind of keeps things a little bit tidier looking, and then I can look down in and kind of figure out where the berries are. This is mostly new growth this year, so not a ton of berries, not any berries on that yet, since these are second year fruiting cane blackberries. Next year I may have to revise this a little bit just because I will be dealing with more. Everything you see here I'm leaving up because I want them to fruit on second year canes, but then we'll also have more of next year's first year growth to contend with. So what I'll probably end up doing is widening this out several feet, probably moving that little oat grass down there that I just kind of threw in the ground haphazardly. And then all of this stuff below it is just like sage and thyme, planted more as ground cover, so I can always cut those back or let them grow under the blackberries as they grow up, because I actually do have a comfrey plant planted under the blackberries here that I continue to chop down for green mulch, just chop it down and throw it and let it decompose in place. But I've been really happy with how this simple solution has allowed me to have a nice little blackberry patch up here in our front yard that we can kind of have like our little berry row. This right here is a blackberry plant that fruits on first year canes, which is very rare. You can see the start of some berries popping up here. So I really like that because that means that I can just chop down all of the canes at the end of the year and not have to worry about dealing with next year, like, oh, when do I chop out last year's canes? Come on, hurry up, berries, so I can chop them out and get more room. Like, I can just chop these down at the end of the year. And it also kind of staggers when you're getting berries. So with raspberries, a lot of people will have varieties that fruit on first year canes and second year canes, because the second year canes are going to fruit a lot earlier than the first year canes. The second year cane raspberries are on the tail end of fruiting, whereas these first year raspberries are going to give us another flush of berries probably in like mid to late August. So I'm extremely excited to have added those to the garden this year. And I eventually want to have like a 50-50 mix of both blackberries, so we're getting a much longer harvest of blackberries and we're not just like drowning at one time. But again, because blackberries take up so much space, I've started training these upward. I'll probably keep these here and just get a more sophisticated trellising system for them next year. I really just want to watch this plant this year since it is a new to me plant. This is our first year growing this first year fruiting blackberry, and I want to see how it performs, how aggressive it is compared to the other blackberry varieties I have. And so far, just having these two little stakes that I gently have it tied up to keep it up off the ground has been enough. And then back into berry row, back here, we have our wall of black raspberries. Now these are not blackberries, these are not raspberries, these are black raspberries. So if you've never heard of black raspberries, they grow a lot like blackberries, but I find that the canes are more vining than blackberries are. So if you look at the blackberries here, this is more like a shrub, right? It's more like a shrub. It's not gonna go like too crazy with vines that just grow like longer and longer and longer. Now, wild blackberries will, but these are more like you pick home garden blackberries. So they're much easier to contain in a shrub format. Whereas black raspberries, these canes will run as far as you let them. So once I got them like gently kind of wound up onto this piece of cattle panel, I started trimming them off on the ends because I do want to keep these contained to just this little black raspberry wall, or else I will probably be overrun. I'm really the only one in this house who even likes black raspberries. So verdict's out on if I will even keep them long term or if I will just decide like maybe I take them out or put them somewhere else and then I widen this area to give the blackberries more space. I think they're a really cool plant and I love the use of like a berry wall here. This that I have them on, this is the piece of the cattle panel trellis I cut off of the kiwi vine cattle panel trellis. So I said I cut that one down to like 11 feet. this is the other piece of it. So I just mounted this to some T-fence posts. You can never have enough T-fence posts when you are trying to grow vertically. And it looks really, really lovely. I love it, and I think it's going to be much easier to pick these next year. I find that when you let fruits that fruit on second year canes that are more like ramblers like these are, more runners, when you let them just kind of like go crazy and run and you don't train them up, it becomes really hard to tell which canes you need to cut out next year, and everything just gets super tangled. So keeping it a more manageable size, I'm hoping keeps this a better experience, because again, we don't have a ton of space up here in the front yard. And I also, since it's the front yard, I do want it to look a little tidier than I might be willing to let it go in the backyard. And then finally up here in the front yard, I mentioned I did get 2 of those super cheap but awesome Amazon arch trellises. This is the second one. I was a little hesitant to put it up here in the front yard on like our front path because I thought it might be annoying coming and going, but it's not too annoying because it's super tall and it's wide enough, and I keep the vines trimmed back relatively in a relatively tidy way. The only people that really use the front porch here are delivery people, and we don't get a ton of delivery stuff. I am growing butterfly pea vine up it, which is a really cool vine with these almost like bluish flowers. And if you've never encountered these before, they're kind of like bluish purple, and you can use them to dye things. And also they kind of like turn different colors based on the acidity level of whatever liquid that you are putting them in. So we're going to use them this year to make some like homemade pink lemonade. And I've been doing some tests with them already inside. I'm dehydrating them so I can use them like in tea mixes to turn them different colors and stuff like that. So I put both of those on both of the sides of these. Each have butterfly pea plants, and I have really enjoyed having this one. Even though it's not something edible, I love the fact that it has these really, really vibrantly colored flowers, and it's not an overly obtrusive vine like the honeysuckle is, for example. That would not be something I would want to put up here in a walkway that needs to be functional. So I may put some more butterfly pea vine next year, actually, where I have the honeysuckle vine, because it's just such a pretty delicate little vining plant. All right, my friends, I am looking around my yard. I don't think there's anything really to write home about that I've missed. I've got a couple random other vertical things. Anywhere where I can stake something up and grow under it, it is excellent. We are walking here under the cattle panel arch trellis right now that looks so pretty. So if you have a smaller space, or you are just really looking to maximize all of your available space by growing up and then planting underneath of whatever that canopy is that you're growing up with, I hope you found this helpful. You can spend any amount of money that you want, from almost none to lots of money. It just really depends on what your goals are, what you want to grow, how long you want to have things, how much you want to invest. I hope you found something helpful in this video though, because I am continuing to add more vertical solutions to our yard to really help us maximize what we can grow in our 1/4 acre total. So until my next video, happy planting.